So, here are 4 cool things I like about how my region looks. I should tell you, I live in Uptown Waterloo now. I used to live in downtown Kitchener, and in downtown Kitchener I would give different directions to people coming to visit, depending on whether I wanted them to get there efficiently along Victoria Street, or whether I wanted to impress them with the value and safety of my home along Queen Street. I could improve my property value by 10 grand by sending my mother along Queen Street instead of through the corridor of strip malls on Victoria. But there are things I love about how this region looks. So I love that on the local roads we have a lot of wide shoulders, many of them paved, and that there's a buggy shed at the Home Depot and in Uptown Waterloo. I love that a lot of the region is accented with salvaged industrial machinery from decommissioned plants in the region. And a shout out to Nicholas Reese, who is an industrious and resourceful and clever guy to help make the Industrial Artifacts Project happen. There are a number of these pieces along the Iron Horse Trail. I love what happened when we revitalized Silver Lake in Waterloo Park, and you can see it has changed how people live there and relate to the space. You can watch people in the evening go for a stroll around the boardwalk and look across and see the lights of the Perimeter Institute reflected in the water of Silver Lake. People are using that space all day and well into the evening throughout the park in a way they did not a decade ago because of the revitalization done there. And I love that we are visibly crafty. In a considerably less authorized intervention in the look of the Kitchener-Waterloo region, crafty urban graffiti artists of a different kind have been knit-bombing a number of things in Waterloo and Kitchener. Keep an eye out for leg warmers showing up on trees and bike racks in a neighborhood near you. All different aspects of the look we have of a city. Visual decisions aren't neutral. They aggregate. We make them as citizens corporate and citizens individual all the time, not just about whether we put a bronze bell in a public square, but in all those spaces in between. And the accumulation of all of that determines what our city looks like and feels like and how we use it, and makes it look and feel different from, say, where I went to high school. So I wrote down a bunch of words that might or might not be what we want this to come out looking like, what we think would represent us. And do we want to look expensive, exotic, exciting, mysterious, chic, quaint, folksy, festive, restful, walkable, welcoming, sophisticated, wholesome, whimsical, serious, accessible, diverse, sporty, thrifty, sensible? We err heavily on the side of sensible in Waterloo region. Tired, affordable. Cheap's a great word, because cheap can go with tawdry and cheap can go with cheerful. And every time we put up a cinder block building, we make a decision about how things look around us. And we can make a decision that things look barren or that things look cheerful. So I did a visual experiment. This is not a scientific measure, but if you go to Google Images and click just photos, let me show you what Perth looks like. Quaint and stolid and a little bit rural and very consistent. Vancouver, BC, urban. I could argue for hip. I certainly don't have to argue for green, except that green looks awfully blue on a coast. St. John's, Newfoundland. I don't know why they paint buildings those colors, but they do, and it's consistent, and it's wonderful, and it's part of the look of St. John's, Newfoundland. Quebec City. Chemainus, BC. does not have First Nations people with giant heads. It has giant paintings of First Nations people with heads. Toronto, Ontario. You're seeing a consistent visual presence for all of these places. When you arbitrarily go to Google Images and say, what does this place look like? It looks like something consistent. And you know I'm going to turn the page now. Waterloo, Ontario. I don't know why we appear to have mountains more snow than Toronto, but beginning of the second row there is a guy shoveling mountains of snow. Mountains of pumpkins. Waterloo Park is well represented, but so is the landfill. Our landfill made the first page. Brace yourselves, Kitchener. What is it with us and motorcycles? And guys who left off their muscle shirts? Remember how consistent those images were for those other towns and cities. Somehow we're all over the map, including the second hit is a map. I'm looking to describe other horrors, but I'm just distracted by motorcycle, guy without shirt on motorcycle. And here's Waterloo Region. That billboard in the middle says, "Get a life." I'm pretty wounded by these images, and I imagine you are too, because we live here. But they reinforce what I notice every day, which is that this is still a patchwork quilt of looks around the city, and we haven't made conscious decisions about how our spaces look. We've made undecisions, we've stumbled into things, and we've made a lot of decisions for other priorities, like being sensible, without thinking of whether we could make the sensible decision that looks the way we want us to look. I'm not saying pretty, I'm not saying twee. I've had all the fake half-timbered buildings I can live with for the rest of my life. But could we make decisions about how this place looks that make us feel good when we walk to work in the morning? That mean when our friends say, I'm coming to town to visit, what should I see? Yeah, there isn't that blank silence on the phone. We say, yeah, what you should see is Toronto. What do we want Waterloo Region to look like is a big part of how we make it livable. Dean Kamen, big part of geek culture, and entrepreneur, has values clearly that we share in the Waterloo Region, said, in a free culture, you get what you celebrate. And we need to be looking at and celebrating, appreciating, trumpeting the way the region looks in ways that reinforce how we'd like it to come out. So how do you want it to look? We do things right on this. I don't want to say that we don't. Kitchener blooms, city blooms, region blooms, has a thing where people nominate neighbors for having good-looking yards, cool yards, pretty yards. Postal carriers make those nominations and vote on it. That's celebrating what it is we want this place to look like. But we're spending a lot of our energy on that handful of punctuation marks and not noticing that the spaces in between matter. So I want to celebrate the knit bombers because they're putting how my streetscape looks as a priority and making my day better every day when I walk or bike to work. It's kind of what I came to talk about. Don't got answers, but I do have, can you back up? Yeah. I do have niggling questions about why we look like this I don't know. Thank you.